No Sleep for Kaname Date is an enjoyable game. That, for a lot of people, is everything they could ask for from this new game in the series that doesn't brand itself as a mainline entry. I'll be going more into what I did and didn't like about the game, but I wanted to start things off by saying that it is an enjoyable game. It is, however, exactly as described. Not a mainline entry, and therefore not going to be the same experience as the first two I, the Somnium Files games. I would even describe No Sleep as a visual novella as opposed to the visual novels of the first two games. All of this is important to establish before getting into the meat of the video because expectations are the ruiner of so much media, and I would hate for that to happen to any of you. No Sleep for Kaname Date from I, the Somnium Files, yes, that is the full title, is a visual novel developed and published by Spike Chunsoft. While the game was originally supposed to be the third entry in the series, No Sleep's director Kazuya Yamada revealed that the plans changed to make the game a sort of spin-off game instead. Now, for those who have followed the previous I, the Somnium Files games, you may have noticed that I didn't say that series creator Kotaro Uchikoshi was the director for this game. In fact, Uchikoshi also did not write this game as he was focused on the 100-line The Last Defense Academy at the time. He did serve as the supervisor for the game, but series veterans took on the roles of director and writer to join the returning character artist and composer. Therefore, the game went in a different direction, specifically including a new game mode called Escape to join the previous investigation and Somnium parts from previous games. No Sleep for Kaname Date released on July 25th, 2025 for PC, Switch, and Switch 2 and had decent critical reception. A 79 with top critics on OpenCritic compared to the 82 of the original game and 86 of the sequel, which, seriously? Nirvana Initiative reviewed that much better than the first game? For players, the only data I can really pull from is Steam, where the game has an 83% positive rating. Overall, it seems that people were mostly satisfied without being blown away with the quality of No Sleep for Kaname Date. No Sleep for Kaname Date takes place between the first I, the Somnium Files game and Nirvana Initiative. It stars Kaname Date, an agent from Abyss, the Advanced Brain Investigation Squad, who uses the machine to sink into the consciousness of subjects aided by his AI eyeball companion, Aiba. He is also the main protagonist for the first I, the Somnium Files game, and post that game, he gets a call from Iris, the internet idol he bonded with in the first game, for help. She needs help because she has seemingly been abducted by aliens that want her to do an escape game to get out. Date and Aiba do their best to help Iris while simultaneously investigating how she was captured and where she is. While doing so, they will be teaming up and interacting with characters from both games of the series, as well as a new character named Hina Tsukiyono. No Sleep keeps up a lot of series traditions. There is the amusing banter between Date and Aiba, or Date and Mizuki, or Boss and Date, or, well, you get the picture. There's discussion of conspiracy theories and wild sci-fi ideas that may in fact be happening in the game, or not. There's investigating, interrogating, as well as the expected amount of inappropriateness from Date and others. While I will say that I think the previous games made me laugh and smile more, No Sleep still hit with a fair amount of its humor and did a good job at peeking in at the characters' deeper thoughts and feelings. There's some moments for characters that I already adored that I cherished from this game, as well as new sides to characters I didn't have as much connection to that were revealed, and some great material for Hina as a new character for the game. I do wish the game was longer to dive further into some of the character details, but No Sleep told an overall satisfying story that, while not the mind-bending adventure of the previous two games, does have plenty to bring to the table by itself. I will say though, I do not recommend this for people who have not played at least the first I, the Somnium Files game. Now, the major addition to this game is not anything to do with the story or presentation, it has to do with the gameplay, and specifically with the escape sequences. These sequences have you controlling Iris, as well as occasionally another character, to solve puzzles in the environment. As you progress, more options open up until finally you are confronted with a final time-limited decision to find the third path that leads you forward. I have some positive and not so positive thoughts about the escape parts of the game, so let's dive right into that. For the positive side of things, it was refreshing to get some new gameplay for a Somnium Files game. I would never call the gameplay loop stale for the series, but adding escape I think brings a new element that leads to humorous interactions and some revelatory character details we couldn't get otherwise. You need to consider as you go around if any of the things that you collect can be combined to produce one or two more things that will help you solve puzzles, and that really helps keep the brain engaged. That's the kind of big brain thinking you'd hope to see with this edition. It also was a lot of fun when I figured out the solution or when I saw things coming, and the ending part of each sequence where you have to put things together to find the third pathway did a great job of bringing it all together and making the journey cathartic. However, there are two main issues that I had with the escape portion of the gameplay, although the first one is more with the structure of the game itself as a result of adding the escape portion. Simply put, I think the somniums, the dream sequences Date and Aiba dive into, are the most interesting part of the gameplay in the series because of the deeper glimpses into character psyches, as well as the dream logic giving them a vibe and procedure distinct from any other game with similar puzzle sequences. Due to the shorter nature of this game and the need to include the escape sequences, we simply got fewer somnium dives than I would have liked. In a longer game, I don't think I would have missed it as much, but for this adventure, it felt unbalanced. The second issue I had is that because these are traditional escape room style puzzles, you can get stuck. For 95% of the puzzles, I was able to figure them out with some thought or just pick them up easily. The problem is that 5% that never clicked with me, and the game's hint system was not particularly helpful. It is to be expected that there are some puzzles that will be more of a challenge for some than others, but having never consulted a guide for a previous I the Somnium Files game, I did feel guilty for having to do so a couple times for no sleep. Some of that is expectations, as I talked about before, but I also think that sometimes the way they guided players with hints and dialogue was obtuse to the point of being counterproductive. Of course, there were also ones that were very obvious before they even gave hints, so I know this is a hard one to balance, and hopefully future games can refine it if they choose to use this mechanic again. For returning parts to the game, the Somniums are of course back, and while not as numerous as previous games, are still full of high quality ridiculousness as well as some insightful character revelations. Aiba and Date doing these is always a strong combination. The best Somniums of No Sleep are, I'd say, up there with the A-tier Somniums of previous games. None was able to get S-tier, but still, solid work. The Somniums retain the 6-minute limit that only ticks down when moving and performing actions. You can manipulate the time certain tasks take with timies, which will help you try to get to the end with time still on the clock to get an additional reward. There are also hidden eyeballs for you to find in each Somnium, thankfully, which you can go back for later to find. That's the basic description, and No Sleep doesn't add much to the formula, but considering the polish and quality of the Somniums in the game, they didn't need to add more. As for investigating around, you're going to be visiting many of the same places you've been to many times before. Check each area thoroughly during this time to get flavor text, and a new feature for this game, alternate endings. These were generally humorous deviations from the main story and were inspired by some of the non-traditional game overs in the previous games. Now though, there are quite a few more of them, so have fun hunting them down and finding out what shenanigans Date gets up to in those misadventures. Otherwise, the game features a lot of the same investigating found in the previous games, where you will examine locations, interview witnesses and suspects, and tolerate Aiba's insect obsession. I'm kidding, Aiba, it is completely normal and you are adorable. There are also still the occasional QuickTime events for action scenes. The one main thing missing is interrogations. There are none, at least not in the formal gameplay way that we saw in previous games. I can't say I miss them too much, but it is a notable absence since there are times when it would have been appropriate for that mode of gameplay to be present. If all that isn't enough, the bonus menu returns from Nirvana Initiative, where you can explore some alternate endings, some novels that narrate events outside of the purview of the main game, and simply extra goodies. It's simply bonus content, not overwhelming, not essential to the experience, but a nice little cherry on top of all that you've put into the game and the series as a whole. Presentation-wise, the game doesn't have a significant difference from the previous games. Almost every location in the real-life portion of the game is reused, there are only a few new character designs, and there's no notable improvement or decline in the direction or animation for the game. There are, of course, the new escape sequences and new Somniums to explore. That's where the main creativity went into the presentation, and I think the escape sequences specifically highlighted that. It's clear that those sequences received a lot of focus to make them stand out in this game, and I think for the most part they worked. On the flip side of things that worked, the UI and UX for the escape parts of the game specifically could have used some more work. The main issue is that in order to view the objects in your possession, which is necessary sometimes to solve puzzles, you have to do a lot of menu clicking and reviewing. And if that object you need is in the possession of another character in the escape sequence, it is frustrating having to navigate back and forth between people and opening menus after going to that person. I'm told that the Zero Escape games, Uchikoshi's first series and a clear inspiration for this game, had a feature where you could note down information to access in the game. It is unfortunate that No Sleep did not implement that same feature, as it would have been immensely helpful. It's not all bad news on the UX front though, as it was nice to have the feature for separate difficulty for escape sequences versus Somnium, and being able to set it at the beginning of each one. All the rest of the game has the same level of polish and detail as previous Somnium Files games, so there were no notable UI or UX challenges that I found in the other portions of the game. The voice acting once again is a strong feature of the game. Greg Chun as Date and Erica Harlicker-Stone as Aiba carried the game, while other characters that featured prominently showed off their skills as well. These games are perfectly cast, which is why it's always great to see them return everyone for each new adventure, and that persists here. Musically, similar to the visual presentation, there is a lot of overlap with this soundtrack and the others in the series. That's overall fine because it feels like sinking into a soothing bath hearing those familiar songs again, plus the few new tracks are solid. I've definitely played some during this video, but I think Destructive Knowledge may be my favorite of the new tracks. The presentation in general lives up to the standards set by its predecessors, and that's pretty much all I could hope for in this new adventure. No Sleep for Kaname Date was a fun adventure reuniting me with this lovable cast. While it does not have the ambition of a full new entry in the series, it tells an entertaining, if brief, story that I had a good time with, and avoids some of the pitfalls that I experienced with Nirvana Initiative. I do understand that the price point may end up being a sticking point for some. Feel free to wait for a sale on this one, but I still think that the Somnium Files fans will have a good experience with No Sleep for Kaname Date, and I see multiple areas and ideas from this game that I'd love to see in a future adventure. What did you think of No Sleep for Kaname Date? Let me know in the comments, leave this video a like, and subscribe if you have not already to keep up with my videos. Have a great day, and happy gaming.